Okay, hi everyone, welcome back, and in this update we are going to check out Zebec's price chart and see what is going on in the short term. But before we get into that, we are at first going to talk about this very important tweet from Zebec's account. And in case that you are not really active on Twitter, you should note that recently Zebec posted something quite interesting, which is an interview at Sibos 2025 in Frankfurt between Simon, their CEO, and a member of the Stellar team, and they officially confirmed that Zebec is indeed integrating with the Stellar network. Now, at first glance, this may not necessarily sound that much of a big deal, I fully understand, but I do think that it's actually quite a strategic smart move, especially because it was announced at Sibos. And in case you don't know, Sibos is actually one of the biggest events for traditional finance, where banks and global corporations meet to talk about the future of payments. Now, if you are a new viewer and you don't know what is Zebec and XLM, you should know that Zebec is a multi-chain payroll protocol and Stellar is a blockchain that has been focusing on payments and also tokenization for years and years and years. And a collaboration between these two, in my view, is actually going to be a huge win-win deal. Because if you want to look at this from Stellar's point of view, well, okay, Zebec is going to bring them real products like, for instance, payroll, number 2, treasuries, number 3, maybe remittance tools. Basically, Zebec is going to bring them real businesses that will create transaction volume on the network. Now, on the other hand, from Zebec's point of view, this is going to be probably quite a big upgrade in both efficiency and also credibility, because Stellar is fast, low cost, and backed by a respected foundation with very much strong regulatory connections. Also, there's something quite interesting going on in here, because both Zebec and Stellar are connected to AllUnity, which, in case that you haven't watched my previous videos, you should know AllUnity is actually behind a regulated euro stablecoin, and that could potentially hint at a bigger plan. And who knows, maybe it's going to be building a compliant payment bridge between the United States and Europe. And if they pull this off, again, we don't really have, at least at the moment, any official announcements of this, but if this is the play and they manage to successfully pull it off, well, okay, it could potentially open up a massive market for cross-border payments, which is going to be awesome. And the best part, I think, is that this partnership, you want to know, it's not necessarily a new one, because behind the scenes, Zebec and Stellar were actually working for quite some time. And you need to kind of consider this as like the next level of the collaboration, which means that we're probably going to see some real product integration, which is great. Now, let's talk a bit more about what this partnership actually means from Zebec's point of view and why should we care about it. I got 4 very important reasons for you, and the first one is that by using Stellar as their settlement layer, Zebec can actually make cross-border payments much faster, much cheaper, and definitely more reliable. And that directly improves their main product, which is real-time streaming payments for businesses and individuals. Second reason, you see, Zebec now gets access to Stellar's entire ecosystem, and that means they can connect with other stablecoins, maybe tokenized assets if they want to, maybe even use Stellar's global on-off ramp partners. Essentially, I'm trying to tell you that Zebec, with the help of this partnership, could potentially easily plug into existing networks that already have deep liquidity and regulatory support. And for projects that works on payroll, these 2 elements are extremely important. Reason number 3, I think this one definitely comes down to credibility factor, because being part of the Stellar development funds definitely gives Zebec an instant boost in trust. And I think this actually signals to big institutions and traditional companies that this is actually a serious project backed by one of the oldest names in the blockchain payments. And especially when you look at Stellar's market cap, they are actually now one of the big players after 10 plus years. So this definitely means they are a great project with a solid fundamental. And if you are in their team, well, okay, instantly that is going to boost your credibility, which is another positive for this partnership from Zebec's point of view. And here is my final reason. I don't really believe that the fund support that they are talking about is going to be just symbolic. No, it likely comes with real benefits. Maybe it's going to be funding, maybe technical support, maybe even marketing help from a seller. Generally, they are going to benefit from this funding. And this, I think, definitely can speed up Zebec's roadmap to help them scale their products globally much faster. Now, if you watch this interview completely, at the end of it, they actually talk about some major developments coming soon. And well, right now we don't really know what is going on, but we can definitely speculate a little bit. And based on that, I got 3 different scenarios for you. And scenario number 1, which I think might be the most likely one, is going to be the transatlantic payment rate. You see, imagine a US-based company using Zebec to pay employees or maybe suppliers in Europe. This process is quite simple. USD is going to be converted into a stablecoin, like, I don't know, let's say USDC, and then it's going to be sent across the cellular network almost instantly. And finally, it is going to be received as a regulated Euro stablecoin from AllUnity. And this process is going to be very fast, absolutely cheap, and also fully compliant, which is really the key part. And in this scenario, Zebec is going to handle the front-end experience and a seller is going to run the back-end engine. So I do think this actually could be one very important play that they are going to do in the near future, and it is actually going to be kind of a perfect one. Scenario number 2 is going to be on-chain treasury management, and this one is a little bit more forward-looking, but at the same time quite realistic. You see, it's very important to note that a seller already leads in tokenized RWA, so a future version of Zebec might actually let companies not just make payments, but also maybe manage their entire treasury on-chain, and they could automatically in this process move idle funds into tokenized money market instruments right from their Zebec dashboard. And that is going to be the next level automation for corporate finance. Scenario number 3 is going to be remittance as a service. You see, I do actually see this as another likely possibility. And this can be, for example, a co-branded remittance platform targeting businesses that make lots of small global payments. I don't know, for example, let's say freelance platforms or maybe influencer networks. It can be either of those things and many others. Now, in this partnership, Zebec could manage the front end and users with a seller providing the global payment infrastructure. And in my view, this could potentially make cross-border business payments much faster, definitely simpler, and far cheaper than traditional banking. So, as the conclusion, overall, I think this partnership is actually a huge deal, although I fully understand not a lot of people are going to pay attention to this thing, but based on what we talked about, I think this could be quite a big step forward for a seller and also Zebec. And even if, let's say, part of what we talked about is going to play out, okay, even in that scenario, I think Zebec is going to attract massive amounts of adoption, which is awesome. So fundamental wise, I think we are once more getting great news for Zebec. Now, how about what is happening in terms of technical analysis in the mid and also short term? Now let's go on the live chart and see what is happening. And if you remember the last time that we talked about ZBCN, we were right in here, and the idea was that what we do not want to see in Zebec, if we want to be optimistic and we want to say that the final low is in right in here, is like a very strong move on the downside in form of a 1 2 3 4 5. And so far, at least, I think I'm comfortable arguing we're not necessarily having that much of a big move down. I mean, sure, we did get a pullback, and maybe this move is going to continue a little bit. I'm going to talk about what is going on in here in a minute. But overall, I don't really think, at least, we should be interpreting this as like a massive bearish setup. So far, I do not really believe that we are there yet. Now, having said that, let's go on maybe 30-minute time frame and see what happened in the recent pullback. And you can actually consider 2 different scenarios in here. Scenario number 1 suggests that from this high, we are actually having an ABC zigzag. I'm gonna say probably to about this point, followed by a correction and another A, B, C structure down, and this can be a W, X, Y in form of a double zigzag, meaning this whole move on the downside by itself is actually just a correction structure. And right now we are building a bullish setup in order to continue this uptrend. And I think we can consider something like this. Maybe let's just read some waves, so much more. If you want to say that maybe this point is going to be considered as the low of our correction, then okay, I guess you can say this is 1, this is 2, and maybe this is going to be the end of our wave 3 correction for another move up into wave 5. This is ABC down. So essentially on a higher degree, you may have 5 up into 1 correction for wave 2, and what's next? Good move up into wave 3 and 4 and 5. So this scenario suggests in the short term, not only we're not going to get a move down, we are also going to most likely get a big continuation of the move up. Do I like this scenario? I actually have nothing against that. However, a lot of other signs do sort of kind of suggest maybe in Zebec, this move up should be considered as just a normal pullback, meaning what? Maybe in the next 5 to 7 days, we are going to have another move down. And I want to be very clear, as long as this phase is going to have certain characteristics, this isn't necessarily going to be that much of a bad sign. Now, why do I believe we're going to get a move down? Because sure, in this phase, I'm absolutely able to find a WXY in form of a double zigzag. However, I really cannot help but think maybe this is just a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down, meaning this might be the beginning of a short-term move down in Zebec. And compared to this phase down, this move up so far doesn't necessarily seem that strong. Let's just actually have a quick comparison timing wise. This move so far is taking us about 73 candles on 30-minute time frame. On the other hand, as you can see, this phase down from the highs to about the lows took us about 95 candles. So again, this doesn't necessarily seem like that much of a strong move on the upside. And maybe we are having right now an ABC zigzag, and in terms of the sub waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a correction for wave B, maybe ABC, maybe WXY, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the downside into our ceiling. Let's go on the live chart. Okay, so we said maybe this is 5 wave down. Now I'm gonna say probably into A. This is correction for wave B, and what's next? Maybe another small move down into our C leg in order to take this low down here for the first target, about let's say 0.44 of a cent. But I don't really expect Zebec going a whole lot lower. Why is that? You see, in technical analysis, we say whenever you are having a very strong move down followed by a pullback, at that point, you need to pay attention to two things. Number one, you need to pay attention to the shape of that pullback, and in case if this is going to be quite a slow move on the upside, that's going to be a bit of a bearish sign suggesting we're going to have another move down. And number two, you need to pay attention to how deep this pullback in form of a correction actually is. And if you want to analyze how deep it is, you can get help from Fibonacci's. And for instance, if we retrace to about the 78% level, there we go, right in here. At that point, you can say, look, this is quite a deep pullback on the upside, meaning there's probably a balance between bears and bulls. And yeah, okay, fair enough. We are going to have another move down in order to take the lows. But since bears and bulls are kind of in the same power band, maybe we're not really going to go a whole lot lower than this point. And for example, maybe from here, we are going to have a very strong bounce. And in Zebec, what is going on right now? Excuse me, let's zoom in more and get help from Fibonacci's. Excuse me, I just didn't take the object. There we go. So as you can see, yep, absolutely. So far, we retraced to about the 78% region. So assuming that we are going to have another move down, I don't really expect that move to be that strong. And odds are this is just a temporary setback in order to gather the fuel for the next big move up. And if you want to go according to this chart from TradingView, which in it, the lowest low is actually this one and not this thing. Well, okay, you can say maybe we are having a wave 1, correction for wave 2, and what's next? Good move up into wave 3, 4, 5, and that's going to be on a higher degree, probably into a wave 3 correction for 4, another move into wave 5. On the other hand, if you want to go according, I don't know, let's say to KuCoin's chart, okay, in that chart, this point right in here is actually the lowest slope, but not to worry, we still have this potential 1-2 scenario. So one way or the other, right now, I do think we should be overall a bit bullish in Zebec, and not a whole lot is actually happening in order for us to get very much anxious and worried. It's just maybe in the short term, we are going to have a bit of a small move on the downside. Let's say, I don't know, like a 10 to 12% move, and even that's not really going to be that much of a big deal. And again, even that's not necessarily guaranteed. So overall, I think we are looking quite optimistic, not a whole lot to be worried about. And I think these are actually the early stages of building a beautiful bull run setup. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in ZBCN's chart. Anyway, if you found any value in my content, I would really appreciate if you like this video and consider subscribing to my channel and follow me on Twitter. And if you want more, maybe you want a complete analysis for your own specific crypto, or maybe you want to learn some decent TA in order to be able to make good money in the markets, you can become a member and ask me anything you want. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time with your family and loved ones. Goodbye.